So here we slip into the sixth turn, and people have kind of plans to go forward. Spain to use their Magellan and all their great explorers and conquistadors to continue exploring. But bad weather came up. This is bad news for everything. I mean, anyone with real plans is in trouble here. We have a Franco-Spanish War in progress, which hasn't really been able. No traction was gained last turn. The only thing that happened was the French drove some of the powers out. I gotta check Switzerland stuff. Okay, but other events for this turn. Spain has a corruption event, which is going to make it difficult for them to build armies. England got an agricultural technique, which will give them a boost in economy. Now, these are a problem. They seem like a great event, but they raise your income to the point where you probably see a drop in income the next turn. So, normally you have sort of this steady progression, which is great for your stability. But these guys make it difficult for you to get that continuous stability gain. May not be a big deal if England can stay out of wars, which they probably can, and get up to their +3. They'll have enough time to recuperate. Turkey got diplomatic pressure. Poland declared war on Turkey. Now that smashes Turkey's plans for continuing the war on the Mamluks. I think. It's not guaranteed. They could just prosecute the Mamluk War and try to prosecute the Polish War as best as they can. It may be worth more to them to do the two wars rather than just focus on the one, because they've got a lot of points invested in the Mamluks. So that's kind of an issue there. But if they declare war on the Mamluks, they may be seeing Venetians coming in, and Venetians have Renaissance technology. In fact, though, the Latins are going to bump up there too, which means I believe Poland is associated with the Latins at this point in the game. So they're going to have a good army. That's a scary thought. Poland's army is very tough. Turkey's got to think real hard. They've got 100 points if they can take the Mamluks out. That's a lot. That's more than they're going to get victory point-wise from the Poles. But in terms of progress later in the game, what they lose to the Poles is painful. So there's kind of this balance. Now, if the game was nicely balanced and you had a chance of winning with any power, clearly you'd go for the 100 victory points. But the game's not balanced. So now the question is, okay, well, I probably can't win with Turkey anyway. How quickly do I want to get knocked out of the world? Because I can take the Mamluks out at any time. I don't know how to handle this. My friend Nick used to argue, look, your victory points, those are your goals. You ought to be playing towards them, even if it's fruitless. And if you look at this first period, it is. I mean, this is supposedly a game in and of itself from turns 1 through 6. But you can see how many points Portugal got. The only real competitor for them, or competitors, Spain can do quite well as well. And conceivably, I guess maybe Turkey could really do well, but I've never seen them pull, the kind of points. Now, maybe the Risto events help a little bit. But still, you've got 100 points for discovering Asia, 50 for discovering the New World. These are not balanced by anything, really. Spain has opportunities to make good points too. Sure, the Turkish 100 for the Mamluks helps a lot, but I don't know if it's enough. Anyway, I think I'm going to try to declare war on the Mamluks as well. It doesn't sound good for Turkey, but I can't really turn my back on those points that I'm getting. Any other events there? No, that's about it. One thing, a number of the rulers, the monarchs, expired this turn, but also others. So, for example, Spain is supposed to get Charles V next turn, but the current, who I think is Philip I, ends up getting an increased lifespan. So he's going to have an extra turn. That takes a turn away from the Charles V era, which is kind of a pain in the butt because Charles is quite good. Not that Philip's a slouch, but I think Charles is significantly better. I think he's a 999. And you don't want to lose those turns. But there you have it. All right, well, let's get on with the economics. Oh, something else I forgot. Poor Spain. Revolts here in Sierra Nevada. That was triggered off a Polish or a Portuguese revolt event. And then their own over here in Valencia. Both of them getting the city. These are dangerous revolts. I think the Sierra Nevada one can actually create Granada again. The Valencia may be able to create the Catalans. Spain may be in a lot of trouble in terms of disintegrating here. What with Naples and these. And I have to, look into that as well. This is really a game where things are getting shaken up more than I'm used to. Maybe in part because of, no, those are revolts. That's all they are. And these events aren't really significantly different in terms of effect. They may be a little clearer and have some nicer interpretations to them. But the overall feel in terms of what they affect the country seems about the same. All right, onward. Well, this turn coming at the end of a period as it does, and with some of the events that came up and the situation as it stood, is one of sort of the classic clusterfucks of EU. So, after diplomacy, I haven't gotten to the economics yet. I forgot about diplomacy. Here's what we have. Turkey declares war on the Mamluks. Venice already has them on their sheet. They intervene. And that brings the Mamluks up to entry in war. They're able to work together. And this is in addition to a Polish war. The Poles are controlled, I believe, by France here. France chose not to declare war on Turkey, which would have been their option, but they have no interest whatsoever. What else? Venice, yes, declared war on Turkey. Spain spent one of their stability to bring the Habsburgs back into the war. The Habsburgs were unable to get Milan or Württemberg into the war, and since Milan's not in the war, actually I don't even think they tried, they don't get those Swiss. The Swiss would have been appealing. It might be worth bringing Milan in just for them, because see, an extra army and the freedom to move seems really nice to me. Let me make a Savoy is not in the war. 3. Let's see what else we got here. 4, 5, 6 penalties. They're not going to be able to bring them in. Okay. And Spain also declared war on the Aztecs. Now this is kind of risky because if they don't get an army here in time, they're going to suffer an immediate native attack. I'm going to build them a navy and an army. Spain's got a decent amount of money right now. They can tax the Netherlands. They've got the papal money coming. If need be, they can grab a loan. It's not the optimal time to take one, but they've got a lot they've got to do. And that's basically how I'm looking at it. They've got to fight their war. They've got all these revolts to handle. So this is going to be a very, very intensive turn. And, well, we'll see what happens. Right now, what I'm seeing is Venice is coming out of this okay. They always get a certain amount of points. Now, there's a strategy in the original rules. The current victory conditions don't seem to support it. To grab a lot of Italian territory, you can make a lot of points off that. That's very ahistorical, and I'm kind of glad that's been removed. I never used to play with it anyway, but they're in pretty good shape considering that they didn't have that opportunity to do that. England's in good shape. They haven't lost Calais. Their economy's in great shape. Nothing bad's happening. They got a bonus colony up here. But everybody else seems to be pretty hosed. France and Spain, their wars have not helped them one bit. Turkey is just doing really poorly. And to tell you the truth, Spain lost their 50 points for the New World, and they're not really getting a lot of traction anywhere. Portugal's doing okay. But they lost those gold mines, and we don't know, what the Goa effect is yet. That may or may not work. You got a one-turn shot at that. They're doing pretty good on points, though, having gotten that extra 50, but they have the thing that crushes all hope, which is Russia. Russia, unless it's changed significantly, will lose you the game. In the original rules, there's just no way. Portugal would always come out, almost always the top country, sometimes with just, in second place. But they were always very strong, and then they just had this huge point sink coming at them. All right, on to the economics. So Portugal has a high impact and risky turn here. Because they have Albuquerque, they built up their fleet. They're going to move some troops in. They built the Goa colony. They basically can just transform that. This is a special rule in the scenarios of all places. It's not covered in the main rules of the game, even though it's a fairly significant regular rule. They convert Goa over to a 3-point colony. It gets a fortification, costs $100. But it puts them at war with Malabar, which means that there's a 60-point native force there that's going to be fighting them, much as the Spaniards are going to have to deal with the Aztec War and build a fort there in order to, have any real chance of surviving. And they're also going to have to ship Cortez down there. In addition, the Portuguese did some colonization in the New World, upgraded their FTI to increase their trade income, a manufacturer, a lot expended. They decided to take a $100 loan. They really needed it here. They also did a technological improvement, got their navies up to the borderline. They can cross that next turn. This is one of those cases where it's worth it to me by far. Even though they had a lot of money and had peace, they couldn't have done everything that they wanted to without it. But as long as you can do pretty much what you want to, maybe not with every modifier that you need, I generally don't take out loans. Anyway, onward. Well, the Spanish are actually springing armies up everywhere. They have all these revolts to handle, so they're close to their maximum number of armies. They have the war with the Aztecs that they want to pursue. They also have this war with France, but they're not really planning on pursuing this, much to kind of the dismay. The revolts that came up this turn, etc., they really don't have a fair way. If they can handle Valencia, they'll turn and try to get up there. But and they did not have to take a loan. They had sufficient money to even throw $100 into a DTI improvement that failed. Mainly, they had a bad turn in investments. They didn't get the colonizations they wanted, etc. It looks pretty poor for them. But they didn't go for any technological improvements. Oh, one thing is technology, it's not obvious that it's going to help you. It is very unlikely that you're going to get a bonus on countries that you really need one against. So what you need to be is more than 5 spaces ahead of the country. The leading country will be exactly 5 spaces ahead of their minors of that technology group. So like the Latins will be 5 spaces behind Spain in this case. So Spain's not going to get an advantage on the minors. And as long as France is between those and isn't down below, there's no, or close to below, there's no reason to invest. There's no bonus to that until you get to one of these. Now these guys start dropping fast. On the first turn that they hit their period, they go down 1. On the second turn, they go down 2, etc. So they'll reach you. So often, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put a big investment into the technology unless you have the extra money kicking around. In this case, it was kind of a choice between the DTI and throw some technology, and it wasn't going to come to an advantage anytime soon. The navies, well, Portugal and Turkey are right up there. They'll hit this, and then they'll drive it down to the other players. Unlike the unreached ones, those drop as soon as someone hits it, basically. You can't. So if Portugal and Turkey cross this line, this doesn't go down immediately, but it goes down during that turn, which is to say on the next turn, the Spanish can catch up to that basic technology. So there's a lot of disincentive in my mind to spending money on technology unless you got nothing better you can do with it. And when we're hitting the new period where DTIs and FTIs are going up, well, we want to take advantage of that. So that's kind of pleasing. You don't want to buy those ahead of time because if you get a revolt like the Spanish did, it could cause your economy to collapse. All right. All right, about ready to start into the rounds. Seen some really big armies. Like I said, the French have built theirs up. Spanish, lots and lots of different little armies to handle all these revolts. Venice built itself up to a maximum, has 2 full fleets ready to engage the Turks. They want to try to make sure they get their points for the Mamluks as opposed to the Turks getting theirs. Poland is always very powerful at this stage. The Turks didn't call Moldavia or Wallachia in. They'd come in as a group. They just don't think that there's any advantage to doing so. In fact, one of them's not theirs anymore. Wallachia is no longer theirs. Moldavia, well, they could have brought it in as an alliance, which would have given them a troop. They may see, the problem is if they bring that in, they bring Moldavia in as a vassal, and that means the Moldavian troops are more of a problem. But I believe you can bring them in at a lesser level. So I'm gonna take a shot at that. This should have happened in the diplomacy stage. Yeah, I believe they'll get them in. So they're going to have sort of minimal troops in not a full entry in war situation. So they can use them to help defend their border against the Poles. They've got a hard line there against the Poles. It's just not going to work well for them. Guess that's about it. I'll send this up. Yeah. England spent a lot of money on economic improvements here. And this is one of the reasons you don't want to spend a lot. It didn't have to go into debt. They just had a lot of money. Not a very good leader. And took some roles, risky roles. Got halves in most of the cases, which devolved to, having to get a 1 or a 2 on the die. And this is the problem. Do you want to go in debt for this? Do you even want to drop your cash reserves significantly for it? They were fine with it because they're able to hit, maybe the DTI, well, they actually went for FTI or a manufacturer or whatever, and they can boost their limits here. So it's the good choices of things, but their chances were pretty low, even with huge expenditures of cash. And, again, you see this choice. What do you want to use your money for? And do you want to use up your tax, your ability to take a loan by when you might really need it at some other point? Anyway, they're able to get away without the loan issue, but they did cut into their excess money quite heavily. All right, up it goes.